Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fascinating, very exciting episode of ChatBox Productions, the live breakfast show coming to you every Thursday morning with my very good friend and co-founder, Mr. David Bell. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Doing well, Nick. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. $1 million this week, Nick. It's been a great week. We've been super busy. And, of course, we've got a fantastic show lined up this morning. Some great guests coming on. We're talking about cybersecurity and how to protect yourself in a digital world. And also sustainability. Is your business sustainable? Are you helping yourself and helping the others around you, keeping things green, but keeping things lean as well? So two great guests coming on the show and sharing their top tips, their stories, their messages. And I'm looking really forward to that. And our first guest will be joining us in about 10 minutes time.
That's very slick, mate. That's very slick. For an unscripted show, that's a very, very slick intro. I'm excited. And I'm intrigued. And what a week. As you said, $1 million. Man, that sounds like a great week. A brilliant week. I look forward to hearing about that. Busy for you, busy everywhere, it seems. Things are ramping up. It's getting a bit more exciting, feeling a bit freer. Still, as I'm told, still to be cautious, but getting there.
Yes, that's a good question, Nick. How is lockdown, since Freedom Day has come and now gone? Has that made a difference to your life? Has it made a difference to your business? Are you seeing increased trade? Are things adapting and changing? Or is it kind of business as usual? Things haven't really changed. Be really interested to know. Pop it in the chat box. Just a bit like Donna's done here this morning. Morning, Donna. Donna's saying there, she's on Facebook joining us, listening live. Of course, we are streaming to Facebook, YouTube and LinkedIn Live as well. So if you're watching on any of those three channels, do give us a shout out, say hello, and we'll give you a mention on the show as well. What more can we do? Let us know. What is it you want to share with the world? Maybe you want to come and join us on the show. You're more than welcome. All you got to do is pop us an email, tweet, or send us a message on one of the channels and tell us what you do, why you do it. And love to get you here and have a conversation with you.
It is, after all, the home of conversation, mate. It's the future, our future, everybody's future hinges on great conversations, and the more the merrier. So the whole idea, the whole ethos of the show is get involved, make it interactive. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're up to. Put comments in the various different chat boxes that you have access to, and we'll throw the comments. Hopefully, we'll throw the comments on the screen. Even if they're inappropriate, I say, put them on the screen. Let's hear what people are thinking. And great already people are interacting with the show, mate. So I love most about the show. What do people think? What are people up to? Let's expand this conversation.
Yeah, and we also are streaming globally as well. So hello to our international viewers and listeners. We've got next week, actually, we have two international. We have someone coming from South Africa in Cape Town and someone coming from the USA. So we're truly international next week with our guests joining us live on the show. So that's going to be really exciting to have them on. But it's back to this week. Nick, we always do kind of a pre-show ramble. We kind of look in what's happening in the news, what's hot, what's not, and that type of stuff. And let's talk about what's in the news. And I think where we're going to start, we're talking about things progressing, normality returning. But for the tech giants, and tech is my background, it's kind of something I have a lot of, a lot of experience and understanding and knowledge in, but not to the degree of these companies or organizations. Apple are just absolutely kind of, well, I think the words that was used by the news is that they are smashing or demolishing Wall Street expectations. I don't know if anyone's seen the story, but their revenue is absolutely unbelievable. 81.4 billion, up 36% against last year. iPhone sales up 50%. Who's buying new iPhones all the time, Nick?
What idiot buys a new iPhone? What? Yeah, I can imagine. Lockdown comes, right? People are upgrading their tech. Everything's online. Everything's kind of focused on digital. On the one hand, Okay, the technology's been a savior. And on Navi, you know my background. My concern is that we let all the technology do all of the heavy lifting, and because of that, we become less human. In fact, I see with this backdrop of the tech companies absolutely skyrocketing. Okay, wow, what a time! What a time to be in technology. But this week, I attended a roundtable, fascinating discussion about fubbing. Okay, for those who aren't in the know, fubbing, mate. Yeah. And I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into.
Talk about this on the show? Are you allowed to talk about fubbing?
I'll let you know what LinkedIn calls it, right? See what if they asterisk it out. It should be asterisk out. So it's
subbing. It's subbing on Facebook. It tells you you're subbing, not
it's bobbing. It's bobbing on LinkedIn, right? See, the world are fighting. They won't talk about it. So a little bit like snubbing, but done with your digital devices. We're having a conversation, and then the person you talk to drifts away because they've got a notification or something in theory more important than your conversation. Fascinating discussion about how do we combat the tech coming into the zone where it perhaps shouldn't make prevalence. And it really interesting, and hopefully we'll get people on the show who are on that round table to carry that discussion on further. So tech, brilliant, lifesaver, right? Got us out of trouble during lockdown. Is it also getting in the way? Here's my question to the audience. Is the technology getting in the way of you being productive or your relationships or having great conversations? Is the tech getting in the way?
Yeah, pros and cons, because on one side it could be getting in the way, but on the flip side, it could be enhancing or allowing you to automate and systemize processes within your business and make things happen when you're sleeping. And God forbid, if you're sitting on a beach sipping on a cocktail, if that ever comes back around, things can still happen within your business. But we've got to protect ourselves. We've got to make sure we are secure. And that's where our next guest, who will be joining us very shortly, we'll be talking about that. How do we protect ourselves in the new age, in the digital revolution? Do we have the right tools, the right mechanisms in place? And that's going to be an interesting discussion. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about the Olympics, Nick. Obviously, it's a kind of a big thing, the 2020 Olympics. Yes, it is called the 2020, even though we're in 2021. Obviously, it was delayed. And there's lots of great things happening out there. And I happened to pick out a few video clips that I've got to share because I just think these are fabulous. So the first one is a coach. I don't know if anyone's seen this, but it kind of makes me go, how do you celebrate in business when things are successful? You know, when things are absolutely, you're smashing it and, you know, the business is launched forward or something personally happens to you in your own life. How do you celebrate? Because this is how Arena Titmus's coach, Dean Boxwell, celebrated. Let's see it live in action. Now, that was when she won the gold in the 400-meter freestyle earlier this week. I mean, amazing. That's how you celebrate. And I think he said he got a little bit carried away. I was going to use a word there like, no shit, Sherlock. You know, he did get carried away at that particular time.
Brilliant, though. Brilliant. Exactly as you should, right? If it's great, let's see. You know, I do ask people when we're talking about communication, what does it look and feel like? Right? Ask yourself the question, right? What does it look and feel like? On that clip, you know exactly what it felt like. After all that, whatever goes into winning gold, right? All of the work, all of the sacrifice, that's what it feels like. Yeah. From a coach's perspective. Amazing.
Absolutely. And that's what we should feel like when things are going well in our business. But what happens when you need to psych yourself up? Another clip coming up here. What happens when you're preparing, maybe you're going in for that kill, you're going to that meeting where you're going to be pitching your business for investment or going to win that huge sale? How do you psych yourself up and get yourself prepared? Well, let me show you how the German judo athlete Matarina Trados, I'm probably got the pronunciation wrong there.
Very good.
This is what happens. This is how she gets psyched up with her coach pre going onto the floor to fight. I had to show it twice because I just think, wow, psych yourself up, get yourself ready. Absolutely brilliant. So there's the question. What we're going to do is we're going to go for an ad break in a sec. But there's the question I'm putting out to all our listeners and viewers. How do you prepare and get yourself ready in business for that big sale, that big opportunity? What do? Do you slap yourself around the face? Do you psych yourself up, or do you keep it calm and cool and collective? And
that's exactly how we start. We start the show. You don't see it because we're off camera. We're giving each other a big slap. Absolutely.
So there we go. So there's the question. Pot your answers in the chat box. We'll come back to them later on. We'll share those with the world, how you prepare yourself or how you celebrate the successes. But first off, Nick, let's go for an ad break. When we get back, we're going to bring our first guest onto the show, who's going to be talking more about protecting yourself and cybersecurity online. And yes, welcome to the show. Our first guest this morning, Francis West. Good morning, Francis. Westek Security Anywhere. Everywhere, actually. Security everywhere. Let's get it right. Pronunciations and words in right places make a big thing. Good morning, Francis. How are you doing?
Good morning, David. Good morning, Nick. Very nice for you to have me on the show today. I always look forward to these, and I've enjoyed your first 10 minutes already. That guy celebrating is just awesome. I saw that earlier in the week, and I just think it's absolutely, I do this with my team every day. I say, what can we celebrate? What can we celebrate? Because every day is a wonderful day.
Yeah, we've been getting psyched up. So what have you, actually, before we carry on, Francis, to find out more about you and the business, what have you been celebrating this week? Have there been any good celebrations carried out this week?
Yeah, I mean, we've protected 6 more clients, which is good. That for me is every time celebration, because most people come to us after they've suffered a cyber attack, and the clever ones come to us before they have a cyber attack, which means, I always congratulate them. They say, what do you mean? I say, but you took action before you get done, and that takes a leader. And I celebrate people that think forward, because not only are they protecting their own data, they should go and sing from the rooftops to tell their clients that, listen, they now have the best security in place that money can buy, because they're protecting their clients' data. And that to me is worth celebrating every day.
Now, so this, I'm fascinated, Francis. I've known you a while, and I'm continually fascinated in a world where more and more, I remember a time before cybercrime was even a thing, right? It was probably going on, but us general public wouldn't have heard about it. Now it's in the news far too regularly, and we only hear about it when it's big organizations. Half of America can't go online and stuff like that. But it's a massive in our digital world threat for everyone. Is that true? Should I be petrified, or is it blown out of proportion?
I tell you, Nick, I've been in the game for 30 years now, always providing IT support. And the last 3 years, we decided to major on cybersecurity, and I'll tell you why. And especially the last 12 months, I can only describe as what I've seen as a tsunami of cyber attacks on businesses and people, and especially small businesses, because the big boys have got teams in place and they're supposed to know what they do. That's debatable. But the small businesses and all the home workers now since COVID, if I tell you that scams have increased by 660% since last March, and cyber ransom attacks have increased by 387% in the last 12 months. In all my years, I've never, ever seen anything like it. So the answer is yes, you should be very concerned, because I think there's so many similarities to COVID. It comes and takes you out when you the least expected, because you don't have your double jabs.
Yeah, I kind of actually matching up those statistics that you're talking about with Apple's turnover and profits. Apple's turnover and profits we were talking about earlier at the start of the show have gone like that, and of course probably the cyber has kind of matched that. It's not only because of that, but obviously there's a lot more hardware sales, and as Nick said, people are using their equipment a lot more, working from home, they're online a lot more, they're more digitally connected, on the move, as well as when they're in their office or home base. So we are going to see an increase in these ransomware attacks. But what I think is quite interesting is that cybercrime now is probably the biggest part of crime on a global basis, because people can sit probably pretty much protected. Is that fair to say? The hacker can sit somewhere unknown to anybody and bounce themselves all around, around the world before they make that attack. And if they get caught, i.e. caught out, it's unlikely they're going to actually physically get caught, found out. Would that be kind of a good analogy?
100% there. And again, I work with all the regional police centers, of which one you stood on some of the same panels as me, and you've seen this. But the latest stats we've seen is that in the UK alone, 27 billion pounds have been lost, like the profits of Apple has been lost in 1 year through cyber-related crime in the UK alone. Never mind the rest of the world, in the UK. So if you put all the other crimes together in the UK, it's less than cybercrime. Now, working closely with Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, and Cambridgeshire cyber police, they will not even investigate any loss under £10,000. So most of these crimes get away. However, here comes the good news, which I don't know if you know this, but due to all the different agencies in the UK, they are stopping something like 67% of attacks every day, which I think is phenomenal. So a third is still getting through, and the third still equals to 27 billion pounds.
And it's not just numbers, right? It's not just money, is it? Like all scams, okay? The effect, I do work with the Trading Standards scams team, and the stats, when someone gets scammed, let's say a pensioner loses a small fortune because they got a doorstep kind of scam, or a business loses a massive chunk of revenue because they got cyber attacked. The effect, devastating on the business, but also on the person, right? These aren't victimless crimes, right? These are very, very victim-orientated crimes.
Can I tell you a quick story of a recent case? A dad phones me up. He runs a small estate agency firm, and he said, "Francis, I've been watching all your LinkedIn stuff. You've been recommended." This is the beginning of July. He said to me, "My son thinks that he's been hacked and scammed, and he's gone completely mad. His son is 21. He lives with him at home." Anyway, cut a long story short, they had to section the son because he was so off the scale, thinking that he was going mad. So he said, "Can you help?" I said, "Of course." So we installed our security solution, all the computers at the office and at home. And within the first 17 minutes, we found keyloggers, we found file sharing software. The data was streaming out of those computers, completely undetected. So we cleaned everything up. And here comes the nice part of the story. The son, let's call him James, he phoned me last Monday and says, "Francis, thanks to you, number one, you've confirmed that what I've always been thinking. And number two, for the first time in my life in 21 years, I feel I can click on anything and you will catch me if you can." And that to me is priceless. So children, especially, you were going to ask me later about tip. So many people working from home now, and they're connecting to the same wireless network as their son, their daughter, their partner. So if any of those machines get infected, that infection will simply spread to the other machine, and then worse, they take the laptop back to the office and infect everybody at the office because they don't have the right training in place, they don't have the right security solutions in place, and then they wonder why they get done.
You mentioned Catch Me If You Can just a second ago.
Yeah.
You've got a book there, and you highly recommend this book. You've already recommended it to me this morning. Said, "David, have a read of this," and I've made a note of it here. Tell us a little bit more about this book and how it might help people.
Yeah, let me tell you. I mean,
to be honest, it's not your book. Nick has a book that he's going to show us now. Look, there it is.
There you go. We're not in zombies.
Yeah, we're not authors, but this is a really good top recommendation for a book.
Absolutely, I can't recommend. So this guy is my hero. I don't know if you remember the movie Catch Me If You Can was made about him, and he's now written a book. And the whole idea is it's called Scam Me If You Can. You can download it from Amazon or buy the book. And it's all about how to, especially older people. You see, younger people get done, older people get done. But the thing is, older people do not have the time to make the money back that they've lost. And that's why I recommend to everybody, please buy this book, read it first, then give it to your uncle, your auntie, your brother, your sister, your mother, your grandfather. Let them read this book, because if they read this book, their chance of getting scammed drops by probably 95%.
Wow. The
best money you'll ever spend.
There you go.
But if we haven't got the book, right, Francis, we come to you, surely. Well, what do we do? I'm concerned, right? I'm concerned. Working from home, run business or more than one, on the same wireless networks as the kids use. They're online all the time. God knows what they're up to. What do we do? What do we do, mate?
Well, let me give you a quick top tip then. It's free, believe it or not. The simple thing you do when you're working from home is set up a separate Wi-Fi network. So you phone up, if you're not technical enough how to do this, just phone BT or Virgin or TalkTalk. It'll take you longer to get through than to do this, what I'm going to tell you next. So you log onto your wireless network and you'll see the existing one listed there. Click new and it'll add another one, because some of the new devices you can add up to 6. So create a new one, call it my home work Wi-Fi, give it a new password, click save. The moment you click save, go onto your phone or your laptop, you'll see the new wireless pop up. Disconnect from the family one, reconnect to the new one, job done. You've just self-isolated your machine from the rest of the family. So even if they get infected, that infection won't jump from one Wi-Fi to another. That's it. That's how you do it.
What about VPN? So virtual private networks, VPN, would you be recommending them to protect yourself? Certainly when you're out and about on the roads, maybe using, well, firstly, not using hotspots. I'll tell you a story actually about hotspots. And in my previous role, we got involved heavily with communications, wireless networks, connectivity. And we did a demo once. And it goes a little bit like this. At a conference, okay, we've got lots of people there, and we took along an access point. So that's a wireless access point like you have at home. And we named it, the Wi-Fi network you're talking about, Francis. We called it Free Public Wi-Fi. Okay, nice and easy, nice and simple. There we go. That's a way of, generating a Wi-Fi network, small, in your pocket. You can do this in a coffee shop, anywhere. And you'll be shocked the amount of people that connect. No username or password required. You jump on it, free public Wi-Fi. We come across them everywhere we go. Now, we were the man in the middle. So what was happening? All traffic was passing through our managed access point. From there, we could basically interrogate all that data, look at usernames, passwords, what information was being shared. Very quick, very simple. Downloading a tool, I'm not going to mention it, that's available just by Googling it and downloading it from the internet for free as well. And once you've got that information, of course, you've got bank passwords, usernames, etc. Now, what we did is we said to people, how many people are using our free Wi-Fi here today? Hands all went up in the air. You'd be quite shocked. Great, guys. So is Bob Martin in the audience here today? And Bob kind of puts his hand up. Bob, does your password start with a D and end with a 1, for example? Yeah. So the point was, be very careful when you're out and about. But VPN, would you recommend it, Francis, to give an added?
First of all, how do we protect ourselves from people like David, Francis?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you. Don't worry.
I'm no hacker. I'm showing something very easy that anybody could do with a little bit of technical knowledge. The point is, the really advanced, clever individuals who really want your data, are not going to ask you the question, is Bob Martin here today? They're just going to swipe that data and use it.
Well, David, you mentioned about all these other devices earlier as well, and mobile devices. Do you know if a party trick I always tell people to do is when you go and visit someone, or even somebody's office, go too far on your phone, open up an email or something you don't mind sharing, go file print and see all the printers that are listed.
Yeah.
And if you can print to somebody's printer at home or your next door neighbor's printer, you can hack into the entire network like that. So 30,800 new Internet of Things are being added to the internet every hour. And most of these devices are still running admin password, admin no password, which if you're brave enough, go to showdown.io, you can see baby alarms, you can see people's CCTV, their gaming consoles publicly listed there for you to log on.
Yeah.
So these, we call it the attack surface. So since lockdown, the attack surface has exploded. But coming back to your question about VPNs, I think VPNs are the most dangerous things on the planet. I'll explain why, hopefully in short. Imagine you're sitting on the second floor of a building and you've got, say, colleagues on the third floor. What's the one thing that connects those two? I'll tell you, it's the secure ducting. The air conditioning ducting, very hard, isn't it? Very secure. You can't get in from the side. But if somebody gets COVID on the second floor and sneezes, that will just simply travel to the third floor securely and take out everybody on the third floor. So unless you set up a VPN that only allows the traffic through that's meant to go through, and then it would say one single application, everything. So if that laptop gets infected at home, that infection will securely be transferred down the VPN to your main office and take out every other user in the building. How is that a good idea? So my answer is, unless you have very good security running on your PC or laptop at the office, I'll be very scared of using VPNs. That's that side. Now, the other advice I will tell you about, do you know 1.1.1?
No, go on, tell us about it.
It's brilliant. It's a VPN solution. I'm just showing on my phone there, 1.1.1, the one there, the pretty colored one.
Yep.
That you can install on your mobile devices, that gives you safety of, so when you do sit in an open network, if you have to use public Wi-Fi, install this. It's free, or even if you upgrade, I think it's £4 for 5 devices. This will add another layer of security to all your mobile devices. So please, again, install this on your phone, your mother's phone, your auntie, your uncle, because at least you know that all the traffic that goes from here to there will be safe. And my other final tip for the mobile phones is to download an app called Sophos Intercept X. Brilliant. It's free. And it gives you security on your mobile devices. So, so put those two on your mobile devices and you've just made hackers and scammers' life infinitely harder.
Yeah. Not impossible for them, but yeah, you're right. What you've done is you've narrowed down the chances of potentially having a cyber attack. And of course, if you're just that slightly better protected than the next person, it's not kind of suggesting protect yourself to put others in danger. But if you protect yourself, they'll probably give up on you and try somebody else. And
absolutely.
Everybody.
They're lazy, David. They're lazy. But they use now the scary, but they're starting to use AI and bots. So they'll try thousands of machines and email addresses in a second. So if yours is only a little bit better protected than your cousin or your uncle, or they're going to go for them.
Yeah. No,
so my question for people every day is, why are you making it so easy for hackers and scammers? And they go, what do you mean? I said, you don't have any layers of protection in place. So don't be surprised.
I'm on one hand flabbergasted, one hand petrified, and the other amazed. 3 hands today, bloody hell! Amazed. And this stuff you're talking about, this free stuff, nice, easy in theory. There's a lot of this that's way over my head, all right? And there must be a load of people sitting there at home thinking, well, I daren't turn my machine on, and unless Francis comes around to sort me out, I daren't, right, kids, the internet is gone, right? No more internet for you.
But that's why people do come to us, and we're now protecting a lot of home users. They come and we install our solution that's monitored and managed 24/7, and then their feeling safe level goes from 1 to 10, which is wonderful, because that's what we want to do. We can. The solutions are out there. People just need to make that call and actually phone people like us to sort it out.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's not
difficult
Be
to
proactive.
do.
Don't sit back and wait for bad stuff. Be proactive.
That's it.
Right? Take control.
Prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things also is, people say, okay, well, I'm not technical savvy. So, yes, speak to the experts. There's people out there that can help you and guide you and give you, the information and actually do it for you if required. But I always say, if it's too good to be true, then don't let it happen. We've all heard that kind of expression used. So if someone if you're getting emails, I get them kind of daily. I've got good spam filtering in, but quite often I'll look through the spam filter and just see what rubbish has been pushed to me. I mean, I could be, honestly, you think Apple with their 70, 80 billion turnover in a year, I could have that in a week because I'm offered that kind of on a daily basis, a billion here, a billion there. But some of them, they got smarter. They realise that, come on, billion, you're joking. But now it's coming down to thousands. The tax scams and stuff like that. You've got £500, or we've got a parcel for you, and it's coming through a text message. We're getting attacked in so many different ways. And cyber security or cyber protection now is not just about being online. It's about protecting your identity in all digital formats.
Yeah.
So we've just got to be savvy. We've got to be a little bit clever. We've got to look at something and think, have I ordered a parcel? No. They want my credit card details to redeliver. Why? There's lots of things we need to just be thinking about before we kind of commit and jump into it.
And I think, just going from that message you just said, we need to start educating our children from the time they can swipe left and right. And we need to educate our older families, our grandparents, and say, if you get any call, if you get anything, please phone us, first, the younger son or daughter. Just do a sanity check. And nothing is urgent on this life unless you're standing next to somebody who's just had a heart attack, who needs to go to hospital. Nothing else is urgent on this planet. So you wait, walk away. Take 10 minutes, take half an hour, take a day, and then if you want to respond. But don't feel ever pressurized to do anything that you don't need to do.
Sound advice, especially with the cases rising. I know Citizens Advice, as lockdown started, took their kind of one-to-one style calls, took 3,000 calls a month around scams. And then more recently, September 2020, it was up to 10,000 calls a month. All right, so just skyrocket. I'm surprised you got time to come on the show, Francis.
Yeah, good point. I mean, that's why I was so grateful for the opportunity, because last year I did 67 presentations and talks and podcasts like this, and I've lost count how many today, but I'm hoping that every time we do a session like this, we're helping one more person or 5 or 10 more people, because if they listen to what we're saying, take our advice, they're just making themselves unattractive. I've just put a link in the chat there. I don't know if you know that site, who-called.co.uk. Brilliant, I love it. So when you get these scam calls through, first thing you do, if you can see the number, is put it in there, because number one, you can report it, and number two, you can see how many other people have reported the same number. And then what you do, of course, then you block it, and then you delete the message. And if it's a text message, please report it to spam. If you look at spam, I think it spells 7726 on your phone. If you look at your keypad, if you do, it's SPAM, the spam, it's 7726. So when you get one of those dodgy text messages, never ever forward them to your mates, please. I know you want to try and be helpful. It's a dangerous thing you can do. Rather take a screenshot and send a photo to your mates if you feel like sharing, and then report it to 7726, forward it, and then delete it, and then block the number. That's it.
Yeah, great. And I was going to ask you for a top tip. We always ask our guests coming on the show, can you give us a top tip to leave us with? You've given us about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 top tips throughout the last 20 minutes, Francis. Now, we're getting some really good feedback. I'm going to pop it in, but David Bancroft's put some really interesting tips, Francis. Thank you, with the big emoji thumbs up. Debs has put, Francis, you are definitely making a difference. So people are agreeing with you. In fact, Debs is coming on the show next week. She's put, hi, looking forward to being on the show next Thursday. And she's coming on, a fellow South African, Francis. She's coming from Cape Town next week and coming on the show and talking about PR and marketing and how to get your business booming during, I was going to say the pandemic. We're still kind of there, but we're at the back of it now. So we'll be hearing from a fellow South African next week.
David, I've just added a link there. I hope that's okay, because what we do for all of our friends and clients and just anybody that cares, we send out a little security tip, like similar to what I've done today, just giving them latest advice every Friday. So they can sign up for free if they want to, and I recommend they do the same with their kids. And we just constantly educate, because education has to come first, and better systems second.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Francis, it's been an absolute pleasure. We could talk all day. Something that's quite close to my heart: technology, security, protecting yourself digitally online. But unfortunately, the clock has beaten us yet again. But Francis, you can sit back in the green room, enjoy the rest of the show. But thank you once again for being on here. No doubt I'll be bumping into you in a meeting at some point soon with one of the constabularies or one of the business interest groups. So Francis West, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Take care, gents.
Thanks, then. Bye-bye. Wow, Nick. I know it's not your area of expertise and understanding, Nick. I know sometimes you'll say, well, I'm not technical savvy, but did it help? Did it help you? It's helping.
Fascinating. On the one hand, helped massively. Right? I feel a bit overwhelmed because, I know enough about technology that I feel as I should be able to protect myself. But I'm definitely not tech smart enough. At some point later today, I'll be giving Francis a call and saying, right, mate, what do I need to do again? You know, I've made a note. And Debs is absolutely right. Knowledge is power. Debs, totally agree. And Francis has a lot more knowledge than I do. But yeah, I made some notes. That 1.1.1 app, the Sophos Intercept, and the 7726 if you get a scam on your phone. So and I know our next guest is having tech issues as well. So so the scammers, clearly we've got them on the run. They're trying to take us down, mate. You know, we've had a few tech issues in the past, but yeah, I feel more educated, and I feel as though I've got a bit. I know kind of which direction I need to head.
Of course, you talked about Francis mentioned about mobile devices. We were talking about Apple and having a device that at the end of the day allows us to interact and connect and do all the great things that we want to do on the move, or whilst laying in bed one night with your partner laying next to you. We're probably watching the latest videos with no sound. We're all using technology in some way, shape or form in our personal lives or in our business lives, for education, for fun, for connecting and building rapport and relationships. However, if you are worried about security on your mobile device, yes, you can get the Sophos Intercept X, and I do use that. It's a great app. Or get a VPN like Francis showed us. There's others out there. I use Nord, which I find very good. Also, if you actually want to stream, here's a top tip. If you're watching Netflix and you've got a UK Netflix account and you want a bit more, what you can do is run up a VPN and go and watch it in the US. And then you get a load more channels, a load more footage there. Of course, that's pretty breaking lots of rules and regulations, but you can do it. And that's the same with lots of other channels and stuff like that. But the tip I was going to give you, all you got to do, if you're worried about your mobile on the move being protected, is get one of these. There you go. If you have one of those, believe me, you probably won't have the problem of getting hacked. Can't tell you how reliable it will be. It's pretty more reliable in some cases.
What a great show that would be, mate, if we were doing it over that technology. We can't do without it. The tech's here to stay. It just makes sense to try and keep it going. And I know our next guest, waiting very patiently in the green room, has had a few power issues. Power keeps dropping out. I suggest we get her on the show as quick as we can, mate, before the power goes again. So everybody, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the rather wonderful Julie Winnard onto the show.
Hi there.
Good morning, Julie. Welcome. You're here. We saw you had some technical issues, power related, not internet related by the sounds of it, which is always
dropping so quick whilst I'm here.
But you're here. You're here. Don't worry if things drop off. If you do drop off, don't panic. Try and reconnect, and we'll pick you back up as soon as you arrive back in the studio. So, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Lovely to see you.
We've got you here finally. So, tell us, Julie. Sustainability is one of your areas of expertise. We'll talk about some other areas that you get involved with, but tell us a little bit more about sustainability and what you're doing in the world of sustainability to help businesses and others.
So I'm a freelance sustainability consultant, and that means I work with all different types of clients, usually quite small or quite big. And it could be anything from your customers have asked you something to do with sustainability and you're not even sure what the term means, and you need to find out what that means for your business. What do you need to do? It could be that the management team have decided actually they want to make their business more sustainable, so it has a better impact on the planet and on society. Or it could be, someone that's much further down the journey, that they've got something very specific. So my background is in industries like automotive, so I look at energy use by different vehicles like road fleets or rail. Or I can go through a business's data and say, well, actually, you thought your biggest problem was over here, but I've had a look and it's over here, and let's do something about that. Or it might be they want to do something as advanced as becoming carbon neutral, and it's how they would tackle that and the different things, or how they would report. So there's different industries that are regulated in different ways, but it could be anything from beginner to quite expert stuff.
And I know, looking, doing a bit of research, Julie, you deal in areas, you look at opportunities for a business, but you also look at risks and potential problems that going in a sustainable way might throw up to them, which I want to talk about. And you also mention trying to avoid greenwashing, which is a term I've not heard before. What's going on with companies greenwashing? What's that?
It's where you have whitewashing, where people would sort of kind of paper over their errors or kind of almost lie about, oh, well, no, we didn't do that. Greenwashing is the industry equivalent of that. So sometimes, unfortunately, companies will make claims which turn out not to be true. Now, sometimes that's because the company's deliberately done that. So think about Volkswagen and Dieselgate. So that's a case where they knowingly deceive people. Sometimes it's because the company chooses to do something green and then it goes a bit wrong because they haven't thought it through. So one of the things that I look at is the resilience of companies and their decision making. So if you choose to do something green, let's make sure that if business conditions change, which now people are much more open to the idea that business conditions can change and how really quickly, you want to make sure that your whatever it is you've chosen to do is still doing what you think it should be, that you don't end up doing something that makes things worse. And then, of course, people can say, oh, yeah, you always knew that. You never really intended to do it properly. So for most companies, it's more of a risk that you'll get accused of it when you didn't mean to, hopefully. And only a very few companies, they become quite apparent if you're working with them and they're not really meaning to do it properly. And most sustainability people walk away from that. So that's a different thing. So, yeah, it's the risk and opportunity to also about people's reputations.
One of the things I have with sustainability, and I'm all up for, making the world a greener place personally, as much as I possibly can, for, recycling everything, even down to the glass and making sure it goes to the bottle bank and stuff like that, LED lighting, anything that can reduce those emissions and help us. But what I see, and hopefully you might have an answer possibly around this, but if you want to be, sustainable and greener, etc., it's a lot more expensive. If you want to, and not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, even down to something really silly. If you want a toothbrush, okay, you go and buy a plastic one, it's 99p for a Colgate one. You go and buy one of the bamboo ones, it's like £6, and everything seems to be, if it's sustainable, it's more expensive. So people are not going to adopt it, are they? Or they're going to be less likely. If we make it same price or cheaper, then surely people are going to be utilising it.
Often depends on the age of the innovation, whatever it is that you're buying. So if you think about things like organic food, which has a lesser impact on the environment, is better for the land. A lot of organic food, particularly basics, are priced the same as the mainstream. So there's certain supermarkets, if you go in, you'll find things like bags of carrots are exactly the same. And for businesses, if they reduce things like their energy use or waste, which is what a lot of greenness is about in industry and for then actually they will save money. And the sort of step beyond that, looking at the resilience part of things, is that if you remove a risk to your business, obviously you make your business more robust and it's easier and less effortful to run it. Sorry about that. I've got a noise on my line. I hope you haven't got that.
Yeah, we can hear it, but I think it's gone. It might be Nick turning his pages. I think it could have been.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I've got loads of pages of questions.
So because I advise businesses, what I try to do is find places where they have a big impact and they can either be cost neutral or save money, because particularly at the moment with the pandemic, there's no point. If someone has money to invest in going green for something long term, and obviously that's great, but there's the whole thing about resilience is to help people pick the things that help the planet and help the society and help them as well, and also to warn them about things which are going to be difficult for them to fix, where they might need to work with other people or they might need to think of getting out of that area of business because it's going to get regulated or it's going to cause them a reputational problem and it isn't something that they can fix on their own. So there's different aspects to it. But for example, things like electric vehicles, people see them as expensive. But if you do it's about between 30 and 80 miles a day, and you lease one, it breaks even because it is so cheap to put the energy in the car compared to putting expensive petrol or diesel in it. That it offsets the cost of the car. And also if you go and get expert advice, for example, leasing a car is much cheaper than buying one if you work it out over the number of months that you have the car. So it's things like that where you need someone who knows that particular area and can really help you do it efficiently. And but yeah, there are some small things like toothbrushes where it's not really ready yet, and some of those things don't work as well as the mainstream thing. And there's stuff that I'm waiting to happen, like plastic packaging, where there's some solutions, but not everything is there yet. So there's still stuff to come.
It's a developing area. David, you say it's more expensive. Yeah, you can give Julie, she'll offer a free conversation, right, with you and your business. So that's a great start, isn't it? It's free to have a chat with Julie to explore what can I do. So what are most businesses doing? What's the first step, Julie? So if, let's say business rings you up, what can I do?
Well, about a year and a half ago, it was that people were travelling a lot, possibly when they didn't need to. And for sort of middle-sized business who maybe deal with people abroad or up the other end of the country, getting on aeroplanes. It used to be that you could quickly get on a plane, say at Stansted, and go up to Glasgow or somewhere for the day. And then as security has changed, that's taking longer and longer. And it's got to the point where there's certain types of trip where actually it's easier and less carbon to go by train. And you can actually work on the train in a way that is much easier than it is queuing up in an airport. So it's things like that. Sometimes the costs are similar, sometimes they're not. It depends what the company wants to do. But you also get, I mean, I've worked in industries where people were getting, going places all the time and wasting hours and hours during the week traveling when actually they could have been productive. So I think the Zoom revolution has helped a lot with that. There are a lot of other things, quite often. Things like when people drive their own cars on business, they're allowed to drive very inefficient cars, and the way that the fuel is claimed from the company is very expensive. So there's lots of things around that, which obviously my background in cars, I can help with that. And a lot of people have offices, and it's, looking at, are you in the best kind of office? Are you keeping a very big office and you don't actually need it? And of course, lots of people are thinking about that now. Other things can be, businesses just simply aren't aware that they could go and find a renewable energy tariff, which costs the same as the one they've got now. But actually that has a huge effect on their footprint. If they mainly office work, your main impact is from that and then the supplies that you buy. So there's all sorts of basic things. But the main thing is starting to track your information. So looking at the electricity that you use and the fuels that you put in vehicles or in heaters and things like that. It's a bit less common now. And then you start to look at what's called scope 3, which is all the things that you buy, like paper and office supplies, or if you're a factory, the stuff that goes in and comes out. That's a bit more complicated and that's more difficult. Everybody has to work together to fix that because you're dealing with lots of other companies. But it's typically there are certain areas where people, aren't quite as good, or they need to go and talk to the landlord. They may not, they may be in a building where there's 5 occupants and they don't know whose power consumption is which. So you could have a little office and next to it someone running maybe they've got a ceramics kiln or something in their bit of the building, and that's going to draw a lot of power. But if you split the bills equally, someone's getting penalised and someone else is using more power. There's all sorts of things you can look at.
Yeah, and I say I'm up for doing everything I can. My family are, within my businesses, etc. But you do get these scenarios. You mentioned about traveling on train versus air flights, etc. I think his name was Jordan, and actually it was cheaper for him to get on a plane, fly into Europe. I think he went into Paris or something like that, and then fly back rather than getting on a train. It was a fraction of the cost, and we all know. And look, I'm not suggesting, by the way, we should be doing this, but you can get a Ryanair flight for £5. Okay, probably actually for £1 these days at the moment. And you can jump on a plane. I can go to Scotland on a plane for £5, return. But if I want to go on a train, it's going to cost me 200 quid. And, how's sustainability ever going to work when the pricing is that far different?
I think that reflects broken markets. Also, there's an issue with the carbon isn't the damage that those forms of transport do. The damage isn't priced in. So it's a little bit like the similar problem. If you buy a car, it's quite expensive and it loses a lot of its value immediately. It's called like the forecourt tax. You lose about a third of the value of the car the minute you drive it off the display area. But if you lease, it's efficient. With travel, it is tricky, and particularly the railways at the moment are in a bit of a bind because they don't have many passengers, but they still have to run services. So it'll be interesting to see what gets supported and what doesn't. It's a case of if you're traveling less, maybe you can afford to go slightly greener. But in some cases, at the moment, for certain people, traveling in a car is a must because they don't want to travel on public transport because they're vulnerable. So it's always a balance, and you do what you can. So we try not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So we try and focus on the things that company can do best.
But sadly,
people got to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
And we're all kind of learning that as with the comment earlier, knowledge is power. The more we kind of know about this stuff, the more likely we are to be able to make the right kind of choices.
And I'm finding as well that a lot of business people do want to do something, but they don't really know where to start. And there is a kind of, as you say, there's a perception in business that being sustainable costs, and that's not always the case. And so people kind of feel like they shouldn't do it at work or something. So sometimes it's quite powerful to be able to say to someone, actually, there is something here that you can do. Look, you could do this, and this will make a significant difference to what your organisation does in terms of the planet, even if it's completely transparent in terms of what you do every day and no one would even notice, like switching to a renewable tariff or something. It would make absolutely no difference to what goes on in the office, although you can tackle that as well, but it makes quite a difference to what that organisation does in the world. So, it's finding those things and helping people to do it.
Yeah, but I do think, and again, I'm trying to sit on two sides of the fence here. I do think there's a lot of people that don't care. And it doesn't matter if you make it, if it's more expensive, they will make a decision based on cost. There's lots of small businesses, okay, 5.8 million SMEs in the UK that have been affected by COVID. Some have actually boomed, but the majority have felt the pinch and the pressure. So now money saving is optimal to their survival. So when you've got a difference of a £5 to 200 quid to go on a train,
guys, there's I'm getting something else on my headphones.
Yeah, I can't hear anything. Nothing feeding in our end at all.
I can't, but Francis probably knows. It's probably being hacked, mate. That's what it is. I reckon.
I'm still sitting backstage.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I can't hear you over. I'm getting a feed from something else.
Okay, try turning yourself off. We're nearly coming to the end, actually, Julie. So it might be if you can bear with us for the next 40 seconds. And then we're probably going to come to an end. So hopefully you can just battle through. But I suppose going back to my kind of original question, you might not be able to answer it. I appreciate. Maybe we have to get you back on the show to answer it another time. But, for lots of people, cost is going to be a driver. And if we can't, as a nation, as a global community, drive down the cost of sustainability, then not everyone's going to adapt it. You're not going to stop the people throwing rubbish out the window on the floor, but it happens all the time. So, we've got to look at how we can make it cost neutral to use the products and the services that are available to us.
Isn't that just something that, it's going to take time to drive the cost down? Isn't it a bit easy to say it's too expensive? It's like, I'll tell you what, I won't go around the corner and buy from my local guy. What I'll do, I'll just get it on Amazon because it's cheaper, and I'll get it tomorrow. Right, which is probably true, but what happens in 6 months' time when the guy around the corner no longer exists, and the only place to go is Amazon? I think it's probably a complex issue which we haven't got time for, unfortunately. But yeah, I think cost is the first thing people will see, but I think we should look deeper.
Yeah. I think, do you know what, Nick? I think it's a really good conversation, to pick up on another week. Maybe we'll do a special show or something like that about it. We'll get Julie on as well, and anybody else that can talk about sustainability, driving costs down within the business, how to survive as a small business owner versus the likes of the giants. Not only Amazon, but there's many others out there. There's loads of discussion around this. I have personal opinions around the likes of Amazon and stuff like that. I use them all the time, and people say to me, David, why are you not, using your local provider? Well, I will do, but they don't have it in stock. And Amazon will deliver it same day, if not tomorrow morning. And I will support the local business. I'm a local business myself. But at the end of the day, if the local business can't compete, then obviously there's discussions and debates around why I should be using them. Julie, I don't know if you can still hear us, or we're kind of filling the gap a little bit here, So Julie, what we're going to do is we're going to say thank you very much for joining us. Apologies that we've got some feedback happening your end, but we'll get you back, Julie. I promise we'll get you back on a special show where we can talk more about sustainability and how it's affecting everybody.
I'd love to do that. Sorry I can't hear you very well, but I promise I will come back and we'll do this at slightly better length.
Brilliant, Julie. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
To Nick, yeah, let's just, you mentioned you use Amazon. I think if we was to put it in the chat box, how many of you are using Amazon? How many of you do go and check the local store around the corner? I hear the story, I've mentioned this before on the show, Nick, where, the local retailer around the corner is moaning and whinging that the high streets are not surviving. And I get where they are coming from. But on the flip side, when you say to them, what are you doing about it? Nothing. Well, if you put your products online, well, no. And then you kind of think, well, if you're not doing anything to help yourself, why is others going to help you? So there's all of these kind of questions and things to be asked. As I say, Nick, I think it'd make a good conversation for another show. Let's get some local retailers on.
A great conversation, because it irks me, of course. Like most people, I'll use a convenient source of whatever I need, but it does irk me. I'm an author. I'm not happy about the way the world of bookshops have been disrupted. And I guess it's disruption, but it just leaves me a bit uncomfortable. However, just like using my blooming iPhone, right? I can't do without it, but it sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable because it gets in the way. Big discussion, I think, and definitely one for another show.
Francis, I'm going to bring Francis on because he's been sitting back in the green room listening, and he's put into we have a private chat feed for those that don't know how the StreamYard studio works, where our listeners and guests in the background who are here in the studio can communicate with us. And Francis, I've got a story I need to tell you about Amazon. We've got about a minute or two, Francis. Let's bring you back in. Can you get that story in? Tell us about it. You're muted though. We just need to unmute you. Let's just click there we go. You're unmuted.
This guy phones me up a couple of months ago. He says, "You won't believe it, my Amazon account got hacked." I said, "What happened?" They said, they got into my Amazon account. They ordered 3 ice cream machines. Do you know how much they were each? £10,000. Okay, so we shouldn't laugh. But this happens every day, because I always say to people, if I can get your password for your baby alarm, your Amazon account, your Netflix, and so what can I order from your Amazon account? So please, everybody, set up multi-factor authentication on your Amazon account so that we don't order ice cream machines from your account.
Yeah, absolutely. And just touch on what 2FA or multifunction authentication is, just to tell somebody what it does.
It's like in the old days, if you remember when we go into banks, you put a card in here and you type in a number, it only lasts for 30 seconds. What's happened now is you download an app called, say, Authenticator. And once you download that, you can protect all your accounts with this code. And this code only lasts for 30 seconds, which means unless somebody's standing next to me with a gun against my head, they're not going to get this code. So they can't get into my Amazon account.
First, they need your username, they need your password, then they need that code that is rotating.
3 things, correct. 3 things.
Yeah, change every 30 seconds. That looked like the Microsoft Authenticator software.
Yeah,
you have one. I use 1Password, which has it built in as well. There's lots of different authenticators out there. But yeah, there you go. Look, another top tip from Francis there. Get yourself 2FA and make sure that you're authenticating everything you do. Thank you, Francis. Great to bring you back in. There we go.
The top tips, mate, keep on coming. And the audience have given a big thumbs up to switching tariffs. That sounds like a pretty easy option. If you're on a tariff that isn't sustainable, switch tariffs.
Yeah,
that's a great start. What lovely conversations, mate. Despite a few technical glitches, loving the fact that we can kind of inspire people to get involved and join the conversation. Doing a lot of that at the moment. If you're on LinkedIn, hopefully you've seen some posts. Lovely Christine has a podcast series, and I'm on it. Right, it's week 1 and week 2. We're talking about technology and the zombies. This week we're talking with strangers, and next week on the show, very excited. We've got Keith, who has an amazing podcast, the Fuel Podcast. If you get a chance, listen in to Keith's Fuel Podcast before next week, because we've got loads of questions for him.
No, absolutely. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can go to our website, chatboxproductions.com. And actually, if you want to come onto the show, go there and you can learn more about us. And you can also sign up to come on the show as well. Of course, the other option is you can pop us an email to hello@chatboxproductions.com. We'd love to hear what you think of the show. We'd love to hear if you want to come on the show or give us your opinions. Everyone has one of those, so why not share it with us? And we might share it with the world as well. Nick, just to wrap up, go back to the Olympics. We spoke at the beginning of the week. We said, where will the United Kingdom or Great Britain be in the medal table by the show this week today, and we had a guess. And you went, I went for 10 golds. I think you went for 13.
13 goals.
Yeah, we're not quite there, but we're doing really well. So just for those that are watching the Olympics, we're on 5 golds, 7 silvers, 6 bronzes, a total of 18 medals to date, which is absolutely wonderful. I'm sure more will be added over the next few days as well. There we go. So there's an Olympic update from Dave and Nick in the studio.
Well, the time's run out again, mate. Time's run out. Either we've got to stretch this show a bit longer, do more of them, or carry these conversations into possibly the late night show.
Coming to a screen very soon near you. And actually, yes, we'll be launching the late night show as of next month. We'll tell you more about that next week and how you'll be able to tune in and listen to more great stories, more great conversation with Nick and I and our amazing guests. But until next week, it's Thursday, 8 o'clock in the morning for the Business Breakfast Show. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.